ladies and dudes? Jabberjaws in the booth, Vulgar Desperado, finally back on the mic with a quick first impression review of James Gunn's creature Commandos. Now, this is kind of, I would say, a return to form for James Gunn. He kind of does seem to do well with the ragtag group of pseudo anti-heroes, from Guardians to the Suicide Squad, and in that same sense, this is kind of his element. I think generally speaking, the show is pretty entertaining. It's kind of got more of that R-rated animated style kind of feel. There's a lot of cussing, blood, and sex in it, and overall I think generally speaking most people are going to like it. There's only 2 episodes out so far. It looks like episodes will be coming out every Thursday for I don't know how many. But so far, so good. I do like the animation style. It kind of reminds me of like the Boondocks in a way. So I think a lot of this probably was outsourced in like Korea. That's what like the animation style feel kind of gives me. It's kind of like that pseudo-American / anime kind of style in it, artistically speaking. And I kind of enjoy that. It's better than the a lot of, I would say, some of the DC animated universe typical art style they kind of have, where everything was just kind of the same for a while. Everyone kind of had the same body and build style. Everyone's a little bit more distinct but kind of sleek here. It's definitely not like no Cal Arts bullshit, and there's no overbearingness of like CG, at least from what I can tell. I mean, it's probably made on computer, but I don't think any of it's going to be like how there were some more recent DC animated movies. I think there was the Super Sons one, right? Like that was like that kind of almost cel shaded CG kind of type shit, so it's not, I don't see any of that happening. So look wise, it's pretty good. Overall, again, I think it's going to be pretty well received. I think the only thing negative that I would see, and that's only because of the social / political landscape that we kind of find ourselves in, at least with some of the more fringe anti-woke types that you see in some of these circles on the internet. Like the beginning is like an opening joke of them roasting like men that are overly sensitive, if you will, to feminism and some of that rhetoric, because it's a bunch of these dudes teaming up with Cersei and basically going through doing terrorist acts because they're upset that the Amazons have an island full of women and they don't have their own island. They're like, well, we should deserve our own beautiful waterfalls too. And it was pretty funny, but in the, like I said again, the landscape that we find ourselves in, it's very relatable term. You do see people kind of going a little too far in their, so to speak, anti-wokeness, to the point where I don't even like kind of talking about that shit anymore, because it's just kind of cringe, like as much as there are some solid points, I think the ball has been done moved, and things are nowhere near as bad as they were in, like, say, the 2018, 2019, if you will, even 2017, things are not as bad as when The Force Awakens dropped and Star Wars kind of got fucked over, and things were all getting fucked over from that time. That being said, I think there are going to be, can't guarantee it, but because hopefully I would think a lot of people are coming out of that fog, but I wouldn't be surprised if you heard on some maybe bigger channels or something, when they do talk about this show, if they do talk about this show, that they make some remark about that. They'd be like, oh, they're making fun of men and da-da-da-da-da, how it goes. Other than that, I mean, the only thing that I kind of find interesting too, at least with this show, is that it was kind of billed as like and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure this show was kind of billed as like the start of James Gunn's DCEU, and I feel like that's incorrect. Generally speaking, this is kind of like a sequel, and really, when you think about it, the start of his DC universe is the Suicide Squad, and then there's Peacekeeper as like the second go around technically, and this is kind of a continuation from both of those shows. From one thing that I do notice that's in the show, I mean, I initially thought that Flag was the same Rick Flag from the Suicide Squad, but this is actually, spoiler, his father. This is Rick Flag Sr., and maybe there was some press releases that I missed. I'm not gonna lie and say I was super interested in this show, because one thing that James Gunn likes to do, and I can understand where he comes from, is he likes to take the obscure characters and do whatever the fuck he wants with it, and it works. He made Guardians of the Galaxy quite bigger than what they once were. And I mean, with the Suicide Squad, it was definitely a better version than what we had the original one. So can't disrespect or knock his hustle. and I appreciate, the attempt at something new. That being said, there's no real characters that you're like, yes, I'm clamoring to see. And even at the end of this show, I don't think anybody's going to leave with a new favorite. People could leave Guardians loving Star-Lord and Gamora and Groot, of course, and Rocket Raccoon. Honestly, a lot of the Guardians, to be perfectly honest. With the Suicide Squad, there was already Harley there as a big draw. And though they replaced, Deadshot or whatever with Killshot, I can't remember. Will Smith with Idris, that's another big draw to the film. They had Flag as a returning, character as well. So there was, and John Cena too, as Peacekeeper, or Peacemaker, whatever his name is. But so there was more draw to that than this. I do think, again, some of the animation style is kind of what will draw some people, and some of the violence and the edginess of it all, which also kind of made me laugh, because while this is more comedic in its tone and stuff, it's still, basically R rating. There's some, brief-ish nudity, cussing, blood, guts, that kind of shit. And it just makes me laugh at the people that were so butthurt about Zack Snyder's, DC attempt, because they're like, oh, it's too dark and edgy and scary. It's like, you guys are acting like a bunch of pussies over here, and yet you guys are okay with this. I mean, it's because the comedy makes it easier to digest. Like, I don't know. Like, for me, while yes, tonality is different, the concept of, something being dark and edgy and, bloody and cussing, they're kind of in the same spectrum to me. They're in the same wheelhouse. If you can handle one, you should be able to handle another one. And considering, Zack Snyder stuff is not that, bloody and whatnot, at least this one, not Rebel Moon's, his Justice League, it's kind of a weird dichotomy. Granted, this just came out, so we'll see how people receive it. But people did receive his Suicide Squad a lot better, as well. And it's kind of, again, the same fucking vein. So that's where, I just kind of question people of the past and their taste and yada yada. No, I'm not saying rebuild or restore the Snyderverse. I would love to read some screenplays and whatnot, but I know that is long gone. But, it is kind of weird where it's like, okay, what's the difference? Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments. Overall, though, I think the show does have some promise. The characters are, like I said, not the most interesting right off the bat, but as the show kind of progresses on, you're like, okay, there's some kind of coolness here. You get to learn a little bit more first about the bride. She's kind of got some interesting backstory, not much unlike what you already know from the Bride of Frankenstein. She was made for Frankenstein, and things go sour. Basically, her creator was fucking her, and Frankenstein didn't like that and killed him, his master father, and Frankenstein's been kind of chasing her all around the world, and she's like, yo, fuck this dude. And that was pretty funny. You got G.I. Robot. I guess, again, knowing some of the political landscape right now, he's all about killing Nazis, and anyone that's a little too sensitive to that because reasons might feel a way about that, but that shit is hilarious, because all he wants to do is kill Nazis, and he's just very, very eager to kill Nazis, and he's just a robot programmed to kill Nazis, and it's pretty hilarious. You got the Fire Skull dude, who I forgot his name. He's that one actor, though, who was... he's pretty famous, but I'm spacing on it. I'll put up like a picture and his name here. But he was pretty cool, too. He seems kind of, even though he was trying to escape and had a pretty sick-ass fight with Rick Flag, seems kind of normal, more to learn there. The Weasel is back, which was another tell sign that this is a continuation. The Weasel, like, Amanda Waller's like, oh yeah, the Weasel survived that one incident with the star, and then this is Rick Flag Sr., and she's like, sorry, I know your son died, yada yada. So again, I feel like while this was billed as the start of his universe, it's definitely a continuation, which does lead me to wonder why not maybe use some of those characters again. I mean, maybe contract is up, maybe Margot Robbie doesn't want to come back as Harley, that's fine. Maybe Idris doesn't want to come back, could understand that too as well. Maybe they got other things on the books. That in and of itself, though, if you could, and then story-wise, it does make sense. They're like, okay, hey, the government put the kibosh on your Suicide Squad. Got it. But there is still room to kind of continue that. I mean, because it is essentially a Suicide Squad, but you could have used maybe more interesting characters, maybe some more renowned or renowned villains. But again, they do kind of storytell that out. Like, that was terrible to explain that, but they do make it make sense at why there's no villains there. They're like, hey, the government said you can't use humans anymore, so that's why you got the weasel, the bride, the flame dude, the robot, and the fish chick. And it works, I think there is some interest there, some intrigue. But again, it's only been 2 episodes, but I don't really see it shit in the bed. I think it's going to be pretty funny. A lot of people do kind of like that R-rated style of animation where, they're just cussing up a storm and just kind of a little bit more real and realistic. And again, I think this is James Gunn's wheelhouse. I don't think he's, out of pocket in where, like like how you've seen kind of like some directors, you're like, all right, maybe this wasn't what you should have been doing, like Josh Whedon on Avengers 2, you know what I mean? Like, it's definitely his style, his pet project. He's clearly put the thought and work into it, and I think overall it's going to be a good show. I don't really have any worries or concerns because I didn't really have any expectations, so in a lot of ways I am excited for it. And going into it with no expectation has made it a lot better than if I had a lot of higher hopes. Again, the only thing I could have wanted was maybe some more renowned characters, but I think going in there with new characters does again leave you room to grow and learn and like and whatnot, even if nobody is your favorite at the end. Yeah, overall I do think people should check it out, kind of give this new DCEU a chance, see where everything goes when we eventually get to his Superman, his Green Lanterns, and whatever he ends up doing with Batman, but because those are, let's be real, those are who we're really waiting for. Those are the ones we're excited about. But so far so good. I'm excited. I think most of you else will be as well. Go enjoy it. Again, there's only 2 things that would make certain kinds of people, and I think for the majority of people, they're not Nazis and they're not so overly sensitive that dig is going to hurt their feelings. So generally speaking, I think most people are going to have a good time. Those 2 jokes will probably go over people's heads anyways. But yeah, I think you'll have a good time. Watch the show. You know what it is. Sorry, we do not record as much. I've been sick. Gentleman Bashers have been sick. We also work. You know how it goes. But eventually, we will get back on a more regular schedule and be putting out some videos. But please hit that like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one. Deuces.